everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening. Joining me today, that's right, we've got both Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer, Charlie O'Connor, and Broad Street Hockey's own Kelly Hinkle. It's good to see everybody again. We never get to do this anymore.
I love when the gang's all here.
We get like one of these a week maybe now, and it's
so many games.
The games never freaking end, and you know,
the games start coming
and they don't stop coming.
Maybe.
Thank you, Kelly.
Maybe the exhaustion of games is part of the reason Matvei Michkov only played 945. We'll get into that.
We'll get to that later.
We'll get into that a little later. It's just insane to me that they're telling you what's going on and people are still mad about it. But regardless,
it's insane to you that people are mad.
My prerogative.
The fact that we know
pretty uneasy to
that we
understand
know why, and then we're still hearing these bad faith arguments. Anyway, something we learned a little bit ago about the Philadelphia Flyers and the 2025-26 season.
Speaking of anger.
Yeah, speaking of people being mad, listen, this one's a little more...
No, I totally get that.
This one's a little more understandable. We got word today that Flyers tickets, price of the brick going up.
Price of brick going up, indeed.
And honestly, I would rather Marlo Stanfield just go, yo, yeah, price of brick going up, and leave, than get this long-winded nonsense from Dan Helfer. And listen, they're doing the thing where they reach out to the fans and have the whole explanation. And at the end of the day, no one cares. You're telling me something that costs this is now going to cost more than this. And it's like an average of $5 a ticket. Okay. It's not the end of the world. They haven't raised ticket prices in 6 years. Ain't nothing cheaper than it was 6 years ago. Like, this is kind of just the way the world works.
Yeah.
But when the team never makes the playoffs, when people are generally apathetic, unhappy, or crossing their fingers, hopeful about the direction of the team, this is not anything anyone wants to hear, even after a pretty nice win over the Devils the other night.
So, first of all, I'm glad that you summed that up for me, because this was extremely like
I just wanted to show that there was a thing.
That tweet about
with the
I
really
ain't gonna read all that
thing.
Yeah. One thing that they could do, Dan, because I know you're listening, that would be very easy. A lot of sports teams I've seen have done this thing where they make concessions, not all concessions, but like the generic concessions, like hot dogs, popcorn, pretzels. They make those super cheap, like $2 for a hot dog, $1 for a pretzel. Like, you make obviously, like, the Shake Shack is still going to cost a lot. The pizza is still going to cost a lot, sure. But like the generic concessions, you make those super cheap. That makes people really happy instantly, and it doesn't cost you any money, and it's very easy to do.
That tray of nachos is worth about $2.50.
Yeah, I mean, like the margin
at 100% markup.
Right. The margin on the hot dog is very high. So like, if you wanted to offset the heat that you're going to get a little bit, like, make the hot dogs $2.
In my Madden franchise,
Easy,
I always
solved
made
it for you. You can call me for more great ideas.
I always made beer super cheap in my Madden franchise.
I didn't even know that was a thing in the video games.
So that my fans would be drunk and happy and rowdy. That was always my idea.
I truly wonder if the Madden games back in those days actually took that into account, or if that's just something you did for your own wish fulfillment.
It's just
I wish I could go to games and beer would be real cheap so I could be happy and rowdy.
It's just how I viewed, like, this is how I would run the franchise. And listen, we never lost. Because it was fake. Yeah. But it's just people are going to be upset.
No, and I think it's reasonable. Like, look.
It's reasonable to be mad about it.
People understandably don't want to pay more for things. Yeah. Obviously.
People don't want to pay for anything.
Paying more for things, generally speaking, is bad. And there's a general, almost like a social contract, I feel like, from the fan perspective with the team, where it's, well, if you're good, I guess I'll give you more money. I won't be happy, but I'm never going to be happy when ticket prices go up. But if you're the Eagles and you're giving me a Super Bowl once every 3 years, you're going to one once every 3 years, sure, I'm not going to complain too much. When you're the Flyers and you haven't been to the playoffs since 2020 and you haven't been to the playoffs and had home games in the playoffs since 2018, yeah, it's tougher to swallow. So I get the frustration. I get the anger. It makes sense. Do I think that the Flyers are doing something more egregious than the average franchise that is all about making money? No, but I don't think the fans are being weird or especially over the top by being frustrated that they're going to have to pay more for tickets.
It sucks. Now, listen, my thing with ticket prices is always, then don't go. Like, that's always an option.
Well, but and that's the risk that they're taking. That's the risk the Flyers are taking, where it's like they're betting that they can raise ticket prices and they're not going to lose that many people. Now, if they're wrong, we're going to see it in the numbers next year. But they know that their ticket renewal rates and just their overall attendance numbers have gone up this season relative to last season. Michkov obviously being a big part of that. But also, I think generally speaking, and I also think that Twitter often doesn't reflect this properly, I think generally speaking, the feeling of the fan base overall is more positive towards the Flyers than it was this time last year, this time 2 years ago. I think people, the fans overall, are feeling better about the team than they were. I think that Twitter overall feels worse, but I think there are reasons for that. I think if you were to go out and talk to random fans, I think generally speaking, people feel better about the Flyers than they did a couple years ago. And I think the Flyers are maybe trying to tap into that a bit. And hey, it is a business. I wish it wasn't. I wish tickets were free and money wasn't involved in any of this, but it is. They think they can get away with this, and we'll see if they're right.
And there are elements to consider here. One being, you know what they used to be able to count on forever? Playoff revenue. Playoff revenue is huge in the NHL because the gate is entirely
it's huge
goes to the owners.
To be sure.
The players get paid for the regular season is on an 82-game scale, and then the playoffs start. Ticket prices are insane. The building is sold out. You get a few home games, even if it's just one round, and you make a few $1,000,000 right there, just right off the bat. The Flyers never get that anymore. Like you said, they've been to the playoffs, once with home games. 2018, that was it.
That was the last time.
That was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, 2018, 2016.
Yeah, that's it. And listen, those were, 2 home games apiece? They've played 4 home playoff games in the last 10 years.
Was it 2? They got
both series went 6.
No,
right?
they got a third. The 6-game series, that'd be 3 home games, right?
If they're how would it go?
Well, yeah, because it's 2-2, 1-1-1-1.
Yeah.
So they got 3 home games apiece.
So they've had a few home games here.
Not many.
In 10 years.
And most of them were bad.
Yeah, and
one was the bracelet game.
Yeah, one's the bracelet game. It's gone poorly for them. They haven't had that playoff revenue. And listen, I think people would be a lot more willing to be like, oh, you're giving us a good product, but that's happening. Also, salary cap's going up. Salary cap might be going up considerably more than they even thought.
Yeah, you think that money's going to come out of Comcast's pocket? Don't be silly.
Never.
It's coming out of your pocket, fam.
Of course, this is one of the reasons for salary caps. So people are on the side against players.
Right.
Yeah.
There's the whole listen, we're going to pay guys less. It's going to suppress salaries. And also, if you don't take team-friendly deals, the fans don't like you. That's another whole reason to have salary caps. This one, it's now going up. Teams are going to be spending more.
Right.
Thirdly, it's going to be a new building getting built.
I think, I can't imagine that
That's
didn't play
a huge
into
part.
It. Because obviously, before the most recent announcement that the Flyers and Sixers are going to be partnering on a new arena, they haven't specified what's going to happen to the Wells Fargo Center, but my guess is it's not long for this world.
It's going to get knocked down and there'll be a new football stadium.
If they build another one, it's not long for this world. They just dumped $400 million into refurbishing an arena that probably has fewer than 10 years left on its lifespan, and now they're going to have to dump even more money into building a new arena. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that played a role in not only the ticket increase, the ticket price increase, but also the timing of this. Because we're talking, 2 weeks after that it got announced?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was listen, that meeting that happened between Harris and Comcast, while all the Center City stuff was going on, they were meeting on this before that.
Sure.
And figuring this out. That was a few months ago. This has been in the works. Clearly, it's a shame. You want to feel like you're getting your money's worth, and I can't imagine many fans feel that way about this team. Now, things are looking up. I'm not as negative as many are. I think this plan can work. But you just look at a team that's they haven't made the playoffs since 2020. They're probably not making it this year. They're most exciting year, like, is the first 27 games of the season with Matvei. Like, there's a reason for people to not be happy about this. But also, this is what sports are. Sports are $1 trillion business, and the fans get ripped off left and right. There's nothing we can do about it.
Also, not to be that guy, but like, have you ever like truly had a bad time at a hockey game?
No.
I've never had a bad time at a hockey game. And if I decided that I was going to make the investment to go to 41 of them, which I would never do because that sounds terrible. My couch is like right there. I would imagine that I'm the kind of person that really likes going to watch live hockey, and like paying $5-ish more to go to a game.
I mean, it adds up over 41.
Sure.
And it's not like it's not like just $5.
No,
Some of the prices went up significantly more if you were closer in. But then I guess if you're closer in, you're much more wealthy.
You're doing fine anyway. Those tickets weren't cheap before. You know what I mean? Like, they're very expensive.
That's the other end. Like, it was always expensive.
Right.
It's not like,
it's not
Florida.
Yeah,
man, this is what like, what was it? The
Yeah.
$5, like 4 tickets, 4 hot dogs, 4 sodas for $44 of the Phantoms game or something.
Oh my God,
Like,
those were the days.
Like, it's not that. Those were never the prices. It's always been freaking expensive
Anyway.
since they moved into this building. It's been insanely expensive. Now they're going to be buying a new one. They're going to be paying a bunch of guys soon. Prices of everything are going up, and they haven't had playoff revenue in forever.
Yep.
Like 2018, it was a long time ago. It all adds up. It stinks for the fans.
It does.
But
It does.
it's kind of the world we live in. And I think that is a great segue to tell you about our partner at Game Time.
Hey.
That's right. Game Time is the absolute best secondary ticket marketplaces. We're talking about ticket prices going up. But the thing about Game Time that I absolutely love, it's that all-in pricing. So no matter what the face value of the ticket is, you're going to know exactly what you're paying on your way before you get to checkout, before you even put in all your numbers and decide, I'm going, I'm excited, and then my ticket price doubles. Never happens with Game Time. You also have Game Time picks, filters out the fluff zone. Only see the best deals in the great seats. They have the most flexible ticketing policy in the industry, the best customer service. It's all at Game Time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, download the Game Time app, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. While we're here, I got to tell you about our friends at Rothman Orthopedics. That's right, because at Rothman Orthopedics, they've been practicing specialized care based in research that leads to way better outcomes for over 5 decades. That's right, it has been their passion for 50 years. Whether their specialty is hip, knee, spine, you name it, they have a doctor for you right in your backyard so you can get back to your specialty. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more and make an appointment today. All right. Now, this Flyers team, I would like to see them make the playoffs. Probably not going to happen. Just based on the number of teams they have to jump, the inconsistency of the goaltending, everything we've talked about for months now. That said, I still think there's one thing, even with everyone up in arms, about Matvei Michkov's ice time that's worth going to the Wells Fargo Center to see, that's worth turning on NBC Sports Philly to see. It's freaking Travis Konecny, man. I want to spend some time today just talking about what kind of year Travis Konecny's having, because listen, we talked about him a lot in the offseason, the contract extension, what makes sense, what doesn't, and everyone has their opinions about that, and they're all valid. He's really freaking good, though. That's really what this comes down to. Right now, Travis Konecny, 58 points. That's tied for 10th in the league with a guy named Jack Hughes. Pretty good. We all like Jack Hughes. He's a pretty good player.
It's okay.
He's 16th in the league in assists, 19th in goals. This is something that really blew me away. So 2 assists last night gets him to 37 on the season. That ties his career high that he actually put up in 66 games in 2019-20. And listen, that team was like pretty freaking good. They had a lot of really good players having good seasons. Yeah. And it makes sense that he was able to pile up some assists. Travis Konecny is by far this team's greatest goal scoring threat. And somehow he's doing this in the assist column. And he's also like, listen, he hasn't scored in a while. And I want to talk about that in a little bit. He's had a little bit of a goal drought right now. But what he's doing this year, taking his game to yet another level, as we're seeing. Yeah, man. They don't really have any centers that can help generate offense outside of Noah Cates, who we actually saw him get some time with last night. The power play is what it is. It stinks. 28th in the league. I don't know how their team's worse than them. It's crazy. He is not just found consistency, though. He seems to be even freaking better than he was just a year ago. And listen, there's still 31 games left. He had that little tail off at the end of last season, as did everyone on the roster. But I am just so impressed by what TK has been able to put together this year.
I personally am very happy that he has backed up my argument over the summer, because there were people that were making the case when they re-signed Travis Konecny that, how can you give him? He's a 60-point player. How can he act like he's worth that much? And I was like, guys, look, you can disagree with the Travis Konecny extension if you want, from a team building standpoint, from an allocation standpoint, from a timeline standpoint. That's fair. There are good reasons to disagree with it. But denying that he's a really good player is not the way you should go. And I love the fact that he is making me seem smart, because he has done so well this year. He's got 58 points in 51 games. He's on pace for 93.
Yeah.
And look, they signed him to the contract. It's done. Pen to paper, ink is dry. They're not going to trade him before the no movement clause kicks in.
It'd be surprising.
Like, it just, I can't see it. So he's part of this. Once that contract was signed, all you could really do, even if you disagreed with the decision to give him the contract, which I did, was hope that he plays so well that it ends up being a good move. And by doing what he's done this year, look, I don't know if he's going to be scoring 93 points every season. I don't know if he's going to score 93 points this season. He's just what he's on pace for. But him showing that he can be at least a point per game guy, and hopefully do so without missing 20 or so games, that makes it more likely that this contract will not be an albatross 4 or 5 years down the road, because he's going to be coming down as he ages from a much higher peak than I think a lot of people gave him credit for reaching. And the argument they always would give was that, well, he hasn't scored all that many points in a full season. And my argument back was, yeah, well, if you look at his point per game totals, he was point per game in 2022, 2023. He was in the 70-ish point pace range last year. He had the near point per game season in 2019, 2020. Give him just a little bit of help on the power play and a little infusion of 100% more Matvei Michkov, and hey, maybe that point production will go up. It has. But what I think has been most impressive about it, honestly, is the fact that he's gotten a bit of a boost from Michkov, to be sure. Power play has been a bit better. He spent time on Michkov's unit, but I think a lot of this is just him.
Yeah.
He's just playing better. He has reached another level of his game, even setting aside the fact that he's getting some help by playing with a high-skill player sometimes in Michkov.
And we talked about that on postgame last night. Like, yes, he's had some time with Mish, a lot of it earlier, but it's like, yeah, they both kind of just want to play right wing, so it's difficult to put them together outside of the power play. His centers this year, Morgan Frost has been the best one in terms of generating offense, and has he even?
Noah Cates has been the best one for like 2 months, but he did nothing offensively the first month and a half.
And he hasn't been playing with TK like at all.
Yeah.
Ryan Paling, who, listen, he's a nice player, but he doesn't generate offense. No. And Sean Couturier, again, he has a role. It's not creating scoring chances right now.
And at least not to the degree he did.
He's nowhere close to the 70-point player he was prior to the injuries and everything.
Yeah.
It's mostly TK.
Yeah.
And what he's done, I wrote it this. So he has more assists than he had, TK, more assists than he had last year when he led the team. More assists than Kevin Hayes had 2 years ago when Hayes led the team. More assists than he had 3 years ago when he also led the team. More assists than any Flyer except for Jake and himself in 2019-20, when he is already now at the number he had, and he's not far away from what Jake had in 19-20. The 90 points, 90-ish points he's on pace for. He's going to be the first, hopefully, 90-point player since Giroux put up 102 in that year. He should have won the MVP.
Year, yeah.
He's stupendous right now. And I'm just really happy that he was able to, like Charlie said, come out of the summer he signed that contract and not just replicate what he did last year. It was like, nice year, tailed off a little at the end, and he's putting up points on a bad team, but he's carrying an offense now that you look at everyone else and go, how's he even getting these assists? Like, who's scoring the goals that he's assisting on? He's not like you can get an assist on a goal you scored yourself. Like, everyone's got 7 to 12 goals, and somehow he's top 20 in the league in assists.
The thing that I find really sort of like, I don't know, it makes me feel good about the state of the team is I think a lot of fans, I think that they kind of hear smart hockey people talk about like players' primes and their peak ages, and it's usually like 23 to 25, right? Like, and I think that a lot of fans just assume that if a player gets to 25, like that's what they are. They're never going to get better. It's all downhill from there. So if Owen Tippett looks like this at 25, this is what he is. If Joel Farabee looks like this at 24, this is what he is. But Travis Konecny is showing us that, like, no, you can get better in your 27th year. Like, it doesn't have to, like, that whole, like, average peak is that, right? It's an average. It doesn't mean that every player is going to fall into it. So, like, I look at a guy like Tippett, who I worry about quite a lot, and, like, yeah, he could still get better. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he will next year and the year after do a Travis Konecny and just get better and better. And that would be awesome because he's another guy with a giant contract. So, like, it kind of makes me feel good to know that we have these guys sort of in their early 20s, that we've seen flashes of real talent and the real ability to put up a lot of points in this league that have kind of been super inconsistent or tailed off or have had, you know, low points and stuff like that, like Farabee. Not saying that Farabee is going to be a 100-point player, but, you know, I think he's better than this is what I mean. So, like, I don't think we have to look at the guys that are struggling and just think to ourselves, like, this is what they are. They do have the ability to get better.
Yeah, and I think that is part of what the Flyers are betting on.
Yeah.
In terms of the way they're building this. They believe that with quality coaching and player development, that some of their guys can defy the aging curve. Maybe not to the degree where they're having their breakout season at age 32. That would be crazy.
That would be weird.
Does it happen once in a while? Sure, but it's not something you can bet on. But I think they do believe that they can achieve outcomes like they did with Ristolainen and Sealer, where guys you don't think have much more left to give, they find a way to squeeze more out of them. And Travis Konecny, in retrospect, if I'm looking back at Travis Konechny's career, like, I think it's pretty obvious what happened is that he just got ruined for a couple years by the chaos of the organization, by the fact that the year after the pandemic and then the first half of the next year, Alain Vigneault was not the same coach he was prior to the pandemic. It just seems like Konecny, more than anyone else, maybe, I guess with the maybe exception of Sanheim, but even Sanheim had a good year the second year Konecny struggled. Yeah. It just seems like Konecny got dragged down by the situation, and maybe in a healthier environment, he never declines from what appeared to be his breakout in 2019, 2020. What's just exciting is that he's a great player, and he's showing that he's a great player. And as much as I get the concern about the direction of the organization and concerns about, you know, when are they going to do something? When are they going to make a big move? It does remind you that had the Flyers traded Konecny away, that the same people who, a lot of the same, I can say everybody, a lot of the same people who were saying they should trade Travis Konecny last summer rather than re-sign him are the same people who right now are saying they need to make a trade for a high-end player. And had they traded Travis Konecny, it would have been like, well, they got to trade for or sign for a guy like Travis Konecny. Like, getting rid of Travis Konecny always ran the risk of the fact that, well, then you no longer have Travis Konecny. And then when you want to get good, you're going to have to go out and find another guy who's as good as Travis Konecny, another 85 to 90 point a year talent, except you're not going to know if that guy fits with your team as well as Travis Konecny does. Now, I still have concerns about whether Travis Konecny will be still a good value when the Flyers are hopefully ready to make the turn. That's my concern with Konecny. But if right now you're one of the people who's was angry that the Flyers didn't trade for Mikko Rantanen, then you probably shouldn't be ticked off that they kept Travis Konecny, because Mikko Rantanen was taken the same year as Travis Konecny. Like, they're the same age. So I don't know. Either you want them to tank or you want them to go for it.
I want to back up to one of the things you said and talk about, one, the the environment, the coaching, the locker room, all of that. Not crazy. Maybe they didn't want like a blue chip prospect coming into that environment, as they hadn't really sorted it out yet because they saw it tank a bunch of their players. Interesting thought there. Second thing about John Tortorella and his impact on TK. TK's first 428 games, 271 points. Under John Tortorella, 187 points in 187 games. He has been a point-a-game player in 3 years for John Tortorella. Maybe if it's not for the huge dip, like he just continues on the trajectory he's on before that. Yeah. But like we saw some things go wrong, like his playoff performance, say, in 2020, where he didn't score a goal in 16 games.
Yeah, it was bad. He played poorly.
Things like that. Maybe how much do you credit John Tortorella and what he's done as an X's and O's coach, putting TK in the situations he's put him in to get more out of him than they were getting in the years prior? Like, how much of this is great job, John? This is why you're here.
I mean, it's hard to argue that he hasn't played a role because there have been quite a few guys that have taken big steps. The two Travises in particular seem to have really flourished under Tortorella. So, I mean, like, I have a lot of quarrels with John Tortorella, but it's pretty clear that he's like a good coach of the sport of hockey. You know what I mean? Like, he knows how to teach guys how to play hockey. And also, he's got a guy like Bradshaw who he trusts to teach guys how to play hockey that seem to be quite good at it. Rocky is also a guy that's there. So yeah, I think it would be silly to say like, no, John Tortorella, it would have happened anyway. I don't know that it would have, because like if they had another guy like Alain Vigneault, or if they had brought in a guy like Laviolette or something, like, would it have been the same? I don't think it would have been. Yeah,
it's one of those things that's impossible to prove one way or the other, but if I had to guess, I would guess that it played a role. John Tortorella and the people, at least, that he has below. Because, I mean, Bradshaw is great, but Bradshaw mostly coaches the defense. Yeah. I guess he did get the boost of working under Bradshaw on the penalty kill. That was cool, because that added a new dimension into Travis Konecny's game. But it's clear that Tortorella is a good X's and O's coach. It's very clear that he is very good at getting a team to buy into a system, to buy into a mentality, even if they don't personally like him that much, which I suspect many players in the team do not personally like John Tortorella all that much. But he's good at getting everyone to buy in and to play as a unit. And Travis Konecny, I believe, has benefited from the fact that the team is again playing cohesive hockey, and it's allowed his natural ability to shine more than it did when the team was super discombobulated in those 2 years, the final two Alain Vigneault years, let's put it that way.
And that's like, when you talk about the penalty kill, that's something that like John Tortorella saw, and he hadn't been put in that situation. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, he's not like the best defender, but he's a willing defender. And also, like, he's a weapon out there, and not just with, you know, like shorthanded goals, but you see what that responsibility has turned him into. Like, he then makes the play last night to, I guess, not win the game, but put the game away, getting the puck out to center and then getting the puck to Scott Lawton to set up the empty net goal. It was a great play. Like, that was all him doing something in a role that he was never trusted to do before towards. Fair point. Some of that is just natural progression. Like, 24-year-olds, 22-year-olds don't have as much responsibility as 27-year-olds. Like, that's just the way it goes in the NHL. True. And maybe it was just a natural progression for him to get there, but it never even crossed my mind. You know, oh, let's try TK out there on the PK. And then suddenly, oh, yeah, he's the #1 shorthanded goal scorer over the last 3 years. You know, like, it's worked out well. And
and again, like, you got to give credit to Travis Konecny for taking that step, because a comparable, and I swear I'm not doing this to crap on this guy, because you in particular crap on him enough during the course of the show, but like Morgan Frost in juniors was a shorthanded threat. He scored a ton of shorthanded points, and if we're going by, because he was taken in 2017, Konecny was taken in 2015. Yeah. If you're going by timeline, this year would equivalency-wise be the first year that Konecny established himself as a shorthanded threat. Morgan Frost, at the same age that Konecny became Travis Konecny's shorthanded dynamo, has certainly not earned that kind of trust from a coaching staff. So you got to give Konecny credit for, because I think Justin Bourne pointed this out years ago, and it's always stuck with me because it's a really good point. Like, convincing coaches you deserve ice time is a skill.
Yeah.
Analytics people in particular, we tend to be like, well, why don't they just give Nick Ehlers more ice time? And it's like, well, you know, he's played under multiple coaches and they all think he can only handle 17 minutes a night, 16 minutes a night. Like, maybe that's partially on him for not being able to impress a coach enough in practice, behind closed doors, in conversations to think, I want to give him that role. Or when they do get that role, do they step up to meet it, or do they shrink and struggle for 2 weeks and they get pulled back? Travis Konecny, to his credit, earned a bigger role, and then when he was given more opportunities and given more responsibilities, he took it and ran with it in a way that other guys haven't. And I got to give Travis Konecny all the credit in the world for that. I don't want to give it all to John Tortorella. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. He absolutely, like, and if we were to pose this question to, like, John Tortorella, he'd be like, I had nothing to do with it. Because he says that sort of stuff about, like, Vinny LeCavalier. Like, listen, Vinny became great because he's great. Like, that was him. But you can obviously look at the trajectory and go, you helped usher it along. And I think, like, that's what a great coach does. A great coach is a teacher. A great coach brings out the most in somebody. Yeah. And that's what we're seeing out of TK right now. I do want to ask, and this isn't to, like, honest, it's impressive what I think TK is doing right now, because he only has a 1 goal in his last 10 games. And I'm looking at his shot on goal numbers. First 41 games, first half of the season, over 2.5 shots a game, 2.6 shots a game. Over these last 10, he has 13 shots, 1.3. Charlie, you have said to us a bunch of times, like, oh, yeah, we're waiting. Like, I expect you maybe at a certain time for post-game. And then you're 5-10 minutes later, then I'm thinking you're going to join us. And you've been like, yeah, we're waiting for TK, and he was getting treatment. He's not shooting the puck. He's getting a lot of assists. He's finding other ways, and I find that impressive. How banged up is Travis Konecny?
I don't know. In the beginning of the year,
he's still playing like 22 minutes. So, like,
it's a good question. In the beginning of the year, I really thought he was, because he was basically from maybe like the 3rd game of the year getting a lot of treatment at the end of games. So I thought he was, and I think he probably was at that time. He missed a couple practices, had a couple of those, you know, sort of maintenance days, sort of not, where, it was an optional, don't worry about it. Okay, he's probably hurt. I don't know if he's that banged up now, or if he is banged up, maybe it's like something that he's going to have to get worked on at the end of the year anyway, and they're kind of trying to maintain it over the course of the year. The bummer of that, not for Konecny, obviously, and certainly not for his country, but for Flyers fans, is that he's not going to get a 2-week break. Like, I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Matvei Michkov can do given 2 weeks to catch his breath.
He needs to,
I'm very happy selfishly that Russia is not in the Four Nations tournament, because I think he's going to benefit a lot, and I'm going to get to see a more effective Matvei Michkov over the final 24 games of the season. Travis Konecny is going to play, and he's going to be, I don't think he's going to be in a top-line role, but he's going to play penalty kill. He's going to get minutes. He's going to get some tough minutes in that tournament.
That's why I made the team.
And, you know, that might not be the greatest thing in the world for the Flyers.
I just, I'm watching him play right now, and I think it was 2010-11 when Chris Pronger was hurt. He played like 50 games that year, and he had a wrist injury. And he would, like, wind up for slap shots and then do a slap pass or take it over to the point and then maybe throw a wrist shot at the net now and then. Just was not happening. He was not going to wind up for a big shot or anything. It's not like TK pumps one-timers all the time. But I'm just wondering if it's something like that, because he's just shooting half as much as he was. It's 10 games. But when a guy who after 41, it's like, oh, he's got 21 goals. He's on pace for 40. You know, like, this is a hell of a scoring year. Yeah. And all of a sudden he's shooting less. That's odd to me.
Yeah, no,
and I just wonder if something's the matter with him. And I'm looking at, he had 2 goals in that one Maple Leafs game. And in the last 10, he has 1. I feel, didn't something happen to him in that game where he, like, got laid out a couple of times? Or I just remember there being something with TK in that game.
Well, he went on that run where he was hitting teammates.
Yeah.
In like 3 straight games.
Also, he had like 3 bone-crunching hits against his own team. And maybe that had something to do with it as well. But I'm impressed that I think there's something the matter with him. At least, like, no, I don't think he's injured. I think he's hurt.
Yeah,
But
difference.
it's affecting, I think it's clearly affecting the way he was playing, at least through the first 41 games. And he's found a way to be just as effective, even without a part of his game being a major part. Like, goal scoring, that's what I think of TK. I think of him as a guy who's going to shoot and score on the rush. I don't necessarily think of him as one of the great distributors. And he's going to have more assists than anyone's had since pre-pandemic for the Flyers by the end of this year. Like, he needs a couple to beat what Jake got in 1920, and that's the most anyone's had since then. So I'm just really impressed with his play, and I am happy he's a Flyer, even though, again, like Charlie said, the thought process of the contract, I don't know if I agree with it. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but damn.
But it's done.
I'm so happy.
And he's here, and it's awesome.
He is a freaking Flyer.
Yeah, it's
like,
done.
he's a freaking Flyer, man.
It's done, and it's played out the way that the Flyers hoped it would, increasing the likelihood that it won't hurt them down the road and very well may help them. And I think that is exciting because I guess you could make a case that, well, it's a positive development that wouldn't have been necessary had they made a different move, but it's still a positive development now that he's here and he's part of this.
I also want to see TK get a chance in the playoffs. Like I said earlier, I don't think it's going to happen. And you just take a look at the
a lot of things got to go right.
standings, and it just doesn't look great right now as I'm trying to figure out how to work my iPad.
It's just everyone's in this.
Yeah, Brenna has it. There we go.
Yeah, the blob.
The
It's
blob,
large.
aside from the Sabres.
It's the Sabres.
The poor Sabres.
They have been rebuilding
The middle
for a
blob is
decade and
so
a half,
large.
and they're somehow in last place in the Eastern Conference. Like the Penguins are straight up. You follow the Penguins, beat writers and stuff. Like the Pittsburgh media, it's like it's over. Like this thing is done, and they are 7 points up on Buffalo.
Well, I guess part of it too. Number one, they obviously have a high standard for their team, but also look at the goal differential. Penguins are a -40. They're watching those games and they probably think like this team is garbage.
They have double. I didn't even notice the goal difference. They have double. Buffalo's only -20 somehow. Yeah. That is freaking credible, honestly. But you look at this and
delightful.
To me, like the Flyers, obviously very much in it, but it's the number of teams that are there that it's some of these teams have to add or at least not sell. And you see the Flyers like, I don't think Rasmus Ristolainen is the biggest difference between winning and losing games, but he's also one of the 2 or 3 best Flyers defensemen. And you subtract that guy, how's it going to go? Because we saw what happened last year, and now Sean Walker also, like that coincides with the entire defense being hurt. Maybe doesn't have the same effect, but I would like to see, specifically for TK, like Michkov getting in the playoffs as a rookie, that's cool. These guys getting these important games. But TK's playoff career has not gone the way you'd expect it. And you look at like the years he made it. 2018, he's 20 years old, and he had 1 goal. The Flyers got killed by Pittsburgh. What they lose that last game, like 7-4 or whatever it was. It was an ugly series. And then in the bubble, 1920, no goals in 16 games. 7 assists, I think. He was, wasn't very good. Now he's a totally different guy, though. I would love to see him in the playoffs now because he just feels like someone who would thrive in that environment.
I've always thought he was a guy who should be a really good playoff player, and I almost think that because if you remember in 2017, 2018, remember how that line with him, Giroux, and Couturier was like really, really good, and then didn't they replace it with Raffl for that series because they just decided, I don't know, I guess we need more defense. That was super weird.
Forecheck, man. Let's get some size.
Yeah, classic Dave Haxtell. 2020, I almost wonder, and I've thought about this. I wonder if he struggled in part because his game is so built on emotion,
and there's no one in the stands.
And there was no one in the stands. I legitimately wonder that.
I struggle. I don't think Tampa should have an asterisk or anything. But I struggle to think of that as actual playoff hockey because environment,
so weird.
Environment is what makes playoff hockey. Yeah. And there was none.
Not only that,
and there was also no travel, no home or away.
I was going to say, the whole world was turned upside down. You can't just pretend that it was happening in a normal circumstance. It was just normal playoffs. Everything was the same. everything was a disaster.
And he's like a 22-year-old kid.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, so
Can't discount
I'm
that.
not criticizing that's just what happened. Is his playoffs haven't gone the way you'd expect, especially for a dude.
It's an objective fact.
And now he's playing at such a different level. Like, I want to see what it looks like because he's really freaking good.
Yeah.
Like, I want it for him more than I even want it for my own personal entertainment. You know, honestly, Flyers make the playoffs, dope. If they don't, I get to go on vacation in April. But like, I want it for Travis Konecny. Like, I think that would be really cool for him, and I think he could be one of those guys that it's like, yeah, man, are the Flyers any good? No, but they're in the second round because TK had 11 points in 6 games. Like, I think that's very, very much possible. Very much a possibility for him. All right, before we go any further, I gotta tell you about our friends at Ace Hardware. That's right, Ace Hardware, now bringing the helpful hardware, folks, that you love from the store to your front door, because it's not just a hardware store. They're the helpful home service folks as well. Ace Hardware Home Services has everything you need to keep your house humming all year long, including the person to do the fixing. So if you've got a leaky pipe, if you've got air conditioning or heating issues, whatever it might be, you need to check out Ace Hardware Home Services, because Ace Hardware Home Services is right around the block with everything you need to make sure you get through the cold winter months and the hot summer that is coming up and everything in between. So visit Ace Hardware Home Services online at acehardwarehomeservices.com to get started on your next project today. And while we're here, why don't I tell you about our presenting sponsor, Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I've been placing all my bets all year with the Bet365 Sportsbook app. I am a big fan, whether it's the early payouts in the NHL, your team goes up 3 goals, boom, you get paid whether they hold on to that lead or not. That's pretty cool. They stream almost 800,000 different games a year, all sorts of great benefits. And right now, that's right, breaking news from our friends at Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5, win or lose. All you got to do is sign up, use code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets, whether your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in PA. If you or somebody knows a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Oh, I'm really looking forward to having a laptop again. I'll tell you that. It's not ideal right now, but hopefully no one realizes. All right. So that's what's going on with TK. That's what's going on with the standings. How many people are...
Has anyone commented?
Still using an iPad? Oh, yeah. We're watching the game.
Mind your business.
We're watching the game last night out in the green room, and I just have it on the arm of the chair, and it just falls right off. And it didn't hit with much impact.
No, it
Thought
really
it would
didn't.
be okay.
Yeah.
Opened it up, and it was dead. It's no longer.
R.I.P.
Yeah.
R.I.P. of those laptops.
It's gone. But
Thank you for your service.
there's another one in the mail. I got one on the way.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe not taking a vacation in April.
Well,
Anyway,
No.
maybe.
Starting a GoFundMe for Bill's April vacation.
I just want to know, do we have a definitive answer on Ersson going to Four Nations?
We do not have a
shortly?
definitive answer, but he's going.
He's going, right?
Yeah, he is.
Now that they have 2 goalie injuries.
He is the clear-cut next guy up. The Sweden coach went to visit him.
Yeah.
I saw him chatting with Ersson after the game. It seems abundantly clear he is their next guy. And now we know for a fact that Jacob Markstrom is not going to be in the tournament. I think Ullmark is still up in the air. It seems like his team would rather him not do it. He probably wants to do it. But even if Ullmark goes,
they still need 3.
they still need one more. Ersson almost certainly is going to be that guy. So, yeah,
That's
I would expect Ersson to go.
It's funny on 32 Thoughts and stuff, and all the national pods talking about the Senators. They know exactly what it is to lose a player because of an international tournament. It happened to Hasek, and then it's well, now we don't get to win the cup.
Right.
And it sucks to be you, Senators. But it will be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, Markstrom's, everywhere I look at Jacob Markstrom's diagnosis is out until at least after Four Nations. Like they're actually denoting that. And Ullmark maybe, but he's been week to week since right before the Christmas break, I'm pretty sure. So you never know. But we're talking about getting this break. And if he's the 2, maybe he plays. If Ullmark's there and he's the 3, he's just traveling. But like you're still practicing, you're still doing everything. Do you love this for Sam Ersson, given the workload he's taking on right now?
Yeah, we talked about this before. I would prefer that he was getting the rest.
But
yeah.
I think the
it's cool
Flyers are probably in the same boat as you.
Yeah,
But
it's cool for him.
It's cool for him. And listen,
but like
he's
selfishly, I hope he doesn't play a minute.
probably not going to get a shot to like be on the Olympic team or anything, barring more injuries. It's cool. He gets the opportunity.
Yeah.
But just he's been good lately. And I want him to now get a break in a few weeks. And maybe from a time on ice, shots face standpoint, he will.
Yeah.
But he ain't going to be in Cancun.
I'm not expecting him to play much, if at all. Assuming that if Ullmark is there, I don't expect him to play at all. I think he will functionally just be the emergency guy. Now, if Ullmark doesn't go and it's just Gustafsson and Ersson as the backup, maybe Ersson gets in a game. Maybe. But I don't think there's a huge difference between practicing with an all-star team for 4 or 5 days versus sitting on a beach in Cancun. In all honesty, you're probably in better shape doing the former because you're not drinking and eating like crap for 2 weeks. Just saying.
All right. Before we get to the Michkov of it all, as we all love to say, got to tell you about the DieHard deal. That's right, because you don't have a ton of time left, fam.
So
10
cheap.
o'clock Eastern tonight. That's right. So you have like, what? Little more than 5 hours to get over to allphly.com and sign up to be a diehard for just $36. Our best offer ever. $36 for the annual price. It's usually like $80 to be a diehard, and you get all of the benefits of being a PHLY diehard, access to the Discord, discount on merch and events, and of course, access to all of our premium content from our all-star cast of writers, from Charlie O'Connor all the way down. You know, Birds might be doing a little something. You think you want to read some Zach Berman the next couple weeks? I bet you do. I bet you do. Well, the best chance to do it is right now. $36 until 10 o'clock tonight. So get over to allphly.com right now. Don't miss out on, honestly, the deal of a lifetime. I can't imagine a better sale
So
than what is
cheap.
going on right now.
It's so cheap.
I might even sign up.
Oh, really?
I was thinking
We're
the
finally
same
going to
thing.
get you to sign up, Bill?
I use my mom's account. I talked about this last night. I could probably just ask somebody for like access to our own website, but I just sign in as D. Katie.
Beautiful.
Good enough.
You would.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Matvei Michkov, guys. 9:45 of ice time. If you haven't heard,
Charlie's favorite topic.
it really.
Ice time.
That was very annoying last night.
I love when Charlie because we don't get to talk to Chuck before he comes on in the post game. And that's why, like, we started every one now with, let me just get your take on the game, because it might be wildly different from what everyone's talking about online and what we started the show with. Charlie, we got to the Michkov content portion of the show last night, and he was just like, I didn't even notice.
Which, by
And
the way,
honestly, neither did I.
I added it kind of last minute to the outline, and Charlie's face was like, "What is this dumb? Why are you asking me this stupid question, Kelly? No one cares about ice time."
But
I mean, people clearly care about the ice time, though.
Yeah.
People
Only the
do.
dumb people.
People, not even dumb people, but just there are people online that really do it. The first thing they do after every period, I think, is look and see how much ice time Michkov is getting, because they want to see Michkov all the time.
Yes.
And when they don't see Michkov all the time, it triggers something. Because there have been multiple times where I've gotten ats from people like with maybe 4 minutes left in the second period, and it's not coming from a poke in the bear place. It's coming from, I believe, a sincere place where they'll say, "Is Michkov getting any ice time? I don't remember him being on ice for the last 10 minutes." And then I'll go and I'll look and I'll say, he's second on the forwards in ice time. He's getting minutes, and they'll be like, "Oh, okay, just hadn't seen him." So there are clearly a lot of people who watch the games with mostly the intent of watching Michkov. And when he doesn't get ice time, people notice. Now, for me, I'm trying to write an article about the game. And I do. In my 10 observations column that I've restarted, I literally have a section called the Matvei Michkov of it all for the people, specifically for the people who are pretty much only paying attention to the Flyers right now for Michkov. That is specifically for them. Yeah. So I get it. But it was a little crazy to me that the Flyers played a really good complete game against a tier 2 cup contender in the Devils. And I went on Twitter. I think it was like I flipped open my phone after we got done the Torts interview on my way back up to like see, I wonder what the discourse is. And when like the first 5 tweets are people complaining about Michkov's ice time, I was just kind of shocked. Like, this was a good game and you're all mad? Why?
Okay, so as someone who often has this exact thought, where is my Matvei Michkov? Why am I not seeing him on the ice? I'm going to explain to you how it works in my brain, at least. So usually it's when the Flyers are either playing very poorly or they're chasing like a 1-goal deficit in the third period. And I'm like, okay, why isn't the extremely talented goal scoring child on the ice? Those are the times normally where I'm like, okay, where is Michkov? He's clearly the most naturally talented player on the team. He's a threat to score a goal at any time. If you're down by 1 in the third, why are we not playing this kid?
I would totally agree with that.
That's normally, last night was different. And I think that maybe the thought process is like, okay, the Flyers are playing great. They're playing a complete game. Like you said, they looked really good. They took it to the Devils start to finish. But I want to know why Matvei Michkov is not considered an integral part of the Flyers playing a complete hockey game. And it would appear to me that in John Tortorella's brain, he's not an integral part to the best version of the Flyers right now.
I disagree with that, but I do think you're onto something. What I would say is that I think John Tortorella at this stage of Michkov's career views him as something of a situational type player. So when a game is tied in the first period, when the Flyers are trailing, yes, those are the moments where he's probably going to lean heavily on Michkov. He's certainly on the power play. He's going to lean heavily on him unless he's angry at him for some disciplinary reason. When the Flyers are trying to protect a lead in the third, Michkov has to have had a good game in the first 2 periods for Tortorella to feel comfortable giving him those minutes protecting a lead, given the way Michkov plays, which is a much more risky offensively oriented game. There have been games where Michkov has gotten significant minutes in the third period when they're trying to kill the game. If I remember correctly, he got significant shifts in the first Devils game, the game they played up in Newark, when that was a super tight game, super tight checking, and Michkov got time in that game. I think Tortorella said after that game that he had a talk with him in between between the second and third periods that, you know, you got to tighten up a little bit if you still want to be getting the ice time. He did. He was satisfied, and Michkov's continued to get shifts through the third. In this game, number one, Michkov was turnover prone. I thought he made some good plays, but he also was turnover prone. He tossed the puck away on a few occasions. Yeah. In addition to that, I thought he just didn't look like he had much burst. And I think the combination of those two things and the fact that he's 20 years old probably was the reason why John Tortorella was like, okay, we're playing against a team in the Devils that thrives off turnovers. We're trying to kill a 3-1 lead the rest of the way. Michkov has been turning the puck over. He doesn't seem to have much jump in this game. Probably going to sit him and let the guys who do have jump and I can trust more are going to avoid turnovers. They're the ones that I'm going to ask to kill this game. So I do think it's less that Michkov isn't part of John Tortorella's best version of the Flyers, but I do think Michkov is not part of John Tortorella's best version of the kill a lead Flyers. I think that's true.
I think Matvei Michkov's ice time comes down to something very simple. The coach, the GM, and the player have all said he's having trouble with his energy level, with having it every game. He's having trouble with the grind of this season. We talked earlier about how many freaking games they've played and how much time. It's an insane number of games that they are playing in a short period of time ahead of this tournament in which they will be taking 2 weeks off for. Matvei Michkov has played 49 games in the NHL this year. That is the most games he's played that I can find on Elite Prospects. Last year, he had 48 games in the KHL. The year prior, Between the KHL and VHL, he had 42. The year before that, 28 and 30. Yeah, like 30-some games. Like, this is the most hockey he's ever played, and he's doing it at the highest level as a 20-year-old rookie who's never had an NHL offseason, who just isn't quite ready for it yet. And it's disappointing. This season, I have said how many times he's the main character. Yeah. Like, he is the reason we're tuning in. Charlie, you're getting all these social media messages and comments that are like, because they're tuning in to see number 39.
People are excited.
I am amongst those people. He is the reason I am happy about this season for the most part. But this is just where they are in his development. They think it's better. One, people complaining about the ice time, you pay $200 and then you see Matvei Michkov for 10 minutes. What if he didn't play? What if they just didn't play him last night? You went and, he doesn't have it tonight. We're going to sit him. They're going to play him 10 minutes sometimes rather than sit him. And then the nights he has it, he might play 17, 18 like he did a few nights ago. He's been averaging around 15 minutes for the last few weeks. That's what it's going to be. That's where he is in his development right now because he just doesn't quite have it. If you watched last night and were like, oh yeah, he should have played more minutes, then you want him to like injure his knees because he's skating on heavy legs and he's going to tear something. Like, that's what you're asking for because that's what he looks like.
Or he's just going to be like more likely to make a mistake.
Yeah, or he's going to stink.
That's going to have people be like, is he even that good?
Yes. Like, this is where they are. It is very disappointing that he's not going to win the Calder Trophy outside of 30 points in the final couple of weeks of the season after the tournament. He could go nuts again. It could happen. First 27 games of this year, he was a point-a-game player. Maybe he becomes that and then some to close out this season after Four Nations, after he gets 2 weeks off. Chances are, though, he's not going to win the Calder. That's a damn shame. That's not what this season's about for the Flyers, though. That's what it's about for us. I want it. But for the Flyers, it's about turning him into the best player a few years from now. This is how they're doing it. And I can't say I disagree, even though, like, I just want more Mish. Like, that's what I want. But, like, I want candy for breakfast every day, and I'll die if that happens.
Well, here's the thing. There's definitely an element of irrationality about this. Yeah. And, like, I think that's okay.
No, fans are allowed to be irrational.
Sports. Yeah, like,
it's short for fanatic.
I want him to play 60 minutes.
Yeah, I made a comment
that's irrational.
I made a comment on Friday that, like, the frustration about the fact the Flyers didn't trade for Mikko Rantanen, that was irrational. It was visceral. It wasn't rational. And that wasn't even meant as like a shot against the fans. Just like, fans are allowed to be irrationally angry. That's
our
fine.
job, really.
That's part of the fun of being a fan. Like, when I was watching the Eagles on Sunday and the Commanders cut it to 14-12, they're going to lose. They're going to blow this game. Did I actually believe it deep down? No, probably not. But it's fun being an irrational fan and yelling things. Yeah. That's fine. You're allowed to do that.
It's what I like about sports. Yeah. I get to be the lunatic that society doesn't allow me to be in any other realm. Like, I have to, like, be a normal person and pay my bills and not freak out on strangers in the street because, like, that's what society demands. But in sports, you're allowed to do whatever the hell you want. That's fun. But you also have to look like the Flyers are doing something else. We don't, and I'm not asking anyone to like it, but like, if you choose not to understand, then like, you're just mad because you want to be mad.
Well, because I understand. That's it. I understand why, if you're a fan who wants the Flyers to tank, and that's your incentive, that's what you would rather them do. I understand why you look at it and you're like, well, yeah, play Michkov 22 minutes. If he stinks, I got to see him more, and they lose games, and then they're more likely to get a top 5 pick. I totally understand why that would be your driving force behind why you're so mad that he's only getting 10 minutes a night in games where things are close. However, that's not what the Flyers are doing. So if you're angry at their overarching plan, not about this one specific thing.
And that's what a lot comes down to. We appreciate those of you watching on TV. Head over to allphly.com for more of the show. I don't believe we have any super chats, so I just want to wrap up with the Michkov conversation. Like, if Mish was scoring, if he was like about to break 30 goals, but like playing no defense and there's just like elements of his game, I'd be like, I don't care, play him more. But it's clear that this is, and I've said this over and over, I don't want to say conditioning because conditioning, so he's not working hard enough. Like, no, he just has to like get there. He has to survive this season. He has to get to the finish line and figure out what it takes. And how many times have we said that about different guys in this league? Like, they do it, and then they figure out what it takes, and then they explode. Right now, his average ice time is about 1:15 less than Nathan MacKinnon in McKinnon's rookie year. It's a negligible amount. That's a couple of shifts. That's 2 shifts. Now Nathan MacKinnon plays 23 minutes a game. I can live with this. I think everything's going to be okay. Like, nothing I'm seeing out of Michkov is making me worry about what he's going to be at 24, 25, 28 years old.
Nothing at all.
This is normal for a player who's never played in the NHL before, and now we have one super chat to get to before we wrap. All right, let's what's this super chat? Because you're really making Bryn laugh.
You should have sent that $10 right
Here's
to Bill.
the super chat for Bill's new laptop fund. We're good. We're good. PHLY, despite the rumors, pays me pretty well. You know,
Amazing.
It's not $2 million, but it's pretty good.
Close.
It's close.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else today? I think that's it.
No, I think you make a really good point though about, look, would it be fun for fans if they were getting to see Michkov 20 minutes a night? Yes, but it's not like most rookies get 20 minutes a night.
Yeah, I know we wanted him to be Crosby right away, but there's a reason like they might not make Crosby wait the 3 years to go to the Hall of Fame like Gretzky. Yeah, they might just be like, you're in, dude. Like, you're in. He's not that, but you can win without being that. Like, it'll be okay.
He's really good.
I have a lot of concerns about where this is all going. Number 39 is not one of them.
He's already very good, and there's nothing that I've seen that makes me think that he can't eventually become superstar level good.
For the record, I agree with both of you, but also I want him to play 60 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Both of these things are going to continue to be true because I am allowed to be a crazy person.
I would love if they could clone him and he's on every line.
It would be great if we had 4 Matvei Michkovs.
It would be a lot of fun.
They should probably trade for other Matvei Michkovs.
We
should find them.
That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers, presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHLY365 when you sign up, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Make sure you're following us right here on the YouTube page. We'll be back with pre- and post-game for the next couple of days. And then they play a Sunday game, which is great with no football this coming Sunday. So we'll have that as well. It's going to be a good time. Follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and follow the podcast as well. Wherever you get those, just search PHLY Flyers. That's it. I'm Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. That's Kelly Hinkle. Until next time, go Birds.
We all silly like the mayor.